Bankers Association has embarked on together with the Kenya Climate Innovation Center and with tremendous support from Financial Sector Deepening. The program is going to be about 1.5 hours. Hopefully we'll be able to keep time. The hashtag we are using is Inua Biashara Summit and also hashtag Blended Finance. So please let's engage, try to get this meeting trending because it's a new area. Blended finance is a new area. We have been talking about sustainable finance for quite a while, but this is a new approach where we really look at partnerships, look at bringing together various sources of capital, whether it's sovereign, development finance, impact finance, grants, and commercial finance. Really just bringing this all together to see how can we lower transaction costs and spread the risk so as to drive more capital towards sustainable development and, in this regard, green finance. So we're very happy to have a very distinguished set of speakers today. We will be hearing from Dr. Edward Mungai, who is the CEO of Kenya Climate Innovation Center. We also will be hearing shortly from Dr. Habil Olaka, the KBA CEO. We will receive a couple of presentations, including a presentation from Mr. Omar Olum from FSD Kenya. The part I'm really excited about is the panel discussions that we'll be having. We will have 2 discussions. First, we will have a series of conversations from clients from the Kenya Climate Innovation Center. These are clients that we're working with on this exciting blended finance project that we're formally introducing to you today. And these clients will be introduced by Christine Wangi, who heads up enterprise development at Kenya Climate Innovation Center. We also will have a panel discussion with the banks that are participating in the blended finance project, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that. And then we will close with remarks from Tamara Cook, the CEO of FSD. So that's a very high-level overview of the program for today. And without any further ado, allow me to introduce Dr. Habil Olaka, who is joining us via video. My colleague, Roslyn. Hi, Roslyn. If you could please start the video. Thank you.
Bank Chief Executives present, Dr. Edward Mungai, the CEO of Kenya Climate Innovation Center, Mr. Mara Cook, the CEO for FSD Kenya, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the KBA Secretariat, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for making time to attend this insightful workshop on blended finance and the green economy. Today's event is timely. It comes at a time when the climate change topic has dominated many conversations. To a better extent, nations and businesses have realized the need to combat climate change as it directly impacts our society and the economy. In December 2015, we saw 196 entities adopting the Paris Agreement that legally binds them to take action on climate change by limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. This move demonstrates great hope, taking into account reports by global organizations such as the World Meteorological Organization, which indicate that if we don't slow global emissions, temperatures could rise to above 3 degrees Celsius by the year 2100, causing further irreversible damage to our ecosystems. A recent report by the African Development Bank indicates that climate change and environmental degradation will cost Africa's economy a staggering $60 billion by the year 2050, making this the right time to create more awareness, increase funding, and commit to frameworks that will avert those risks. Accelerating our efforts on climate mitigation and adaptation, as well as embracing projects on the green economy, such as the blended finance project that we are championing, remains a crucial pillar to tackling the climate change crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, to attain the much anticipated change, we need to leverage efforts from all fronts. As such, the financing aspect plays a pivotal role in the process, and we, as the banking sector, have an obligation to enable MSMEs in the green economy access affordable credit. As you might be aware, development finance from governments and donors is currently not sufficient to fill the investment gap needed to combat climate change. This is where the concept of blended finance comes in. KBA, together with our partners, have initiated the blended finance project, taking into account that it's one of the best ways to help bridge the estimated $2.5 trillion annual investment gap for delivering the SDGs by the United Nations in developing countries like Kenya. Blended finance is an approach that uses different forms of capital in support of sustainable development. Across the world in the recent past, this form of funding is helping tens of thousands of businesses to meet their development agenda. On our end, the concept of the blended finance project was inspired by the realization that many entrepreneurs with viable business concepts cannot access bank loans due to a lack of a demonstrated track record or sufficient collateral. This is a stumbling block not only to attaining Kenya's Vision 2030, but also the SDGs. It's under such backgrounds that KBA, the Kenya Climate Innovation Center, and the Financial Sector Deepening Kenya have collaborated to support entrepreneurs to access capital needed to scale up their businesses that are operating within the green economy. Recent data from the 2019 State of Blended Finance report revealed that upwards of $140 billion in aggregate financing has been mobilized by blended finance. Looking at the regional statistics, for example, we note that Sub-Saharan Africa leads with 69% on proportions of transactions on blended finance, followed by Latin America and the Caribbean with 35%, and East Asia and the Pacific at 25%. And with those statistics, noting that Africa has the most significant share of blended finance transactions, some critical questions beg for answers. What are the opportunities available in blended finance, and how can we tap them? Ladies and gentlemen, blended finance offers us vast opportunities, not only as businesses, but as a nation. With key indicators showing that most finance mobilized is going towards climate change mitigation, there is a need to scale up support for adaptation for projects that focus on disaster management and business continuity, infrastructure development, and flood protection. To this end, I want to note that SDGs create a more suitable world and offers real business opportunities. As such, a significant scale-up of investment is required, going with the estimates of the United Nations that nearly $4 trillion is needed annually to achieve the SDGs. This is what continues to inspire us in this project. As key industry players, we believe that apart from promoting green finance on this project, we shall also open up more opportunities for SMEs green financing. Together with the KCIC and FSD Kenya, we aspire to facilitate commercial finance flow to KCIC incubated startups and MSMEs operating within the green economy and with viable businesses ready to scale bank. We also want to educate MSMEs on the requirements banks have before approving loans to enable them to position themselves better when seeking bank finance. And as I conclude, I want to thank all the startups, the banks, the organizations, and all individuals taking part in supporting this blended finance project. Let us put our efforts, regardless of how small or big they are. As the late Professor Wangari Maathai said, it is the little things citizens do. That's what will make the difference. Thank you very much.
We thank Dr. Olaka for those remarks. And really, when he was talking, I was thinking about how this whole approach of sustainable finance requires collaborations. And I follow Edward Kipchoge. I'm sure many of us and all of us follow Edward Kipchoge. And very soon you'll know why I'm talking about him. And when Mr. Kipchoge broke the 2-hour marathon barrier in Vienna, of course, we all celebrated his tremendous historic achievement. But for me, one thing I really paid attention to, if you remember that photo of him breaking the barrier and crossing that finish line, you saw him celebrating, but behind him, there was, I don't know if you saw all the other runners. And those runners were 41 runners who run with him, who earlier trained with him. They motivated him and helped him keep pace to help him make that historic moment. And really, sustainable finance is a lot like that. Eliud Kipchoge, ultimately, in my view, is our clients. It's the businesses, it's the enterprises who need our support, who need our finance, who need our technical assistance to break those barriers that help ensure our sustainable economic development. And the 41 runners that are pushing these clients forward are the bankers, are the insurance companies, are the development finance institutions. And that's why we exist. We exist to create that environment that ensures that our clients, our Kipchoge clients, are able to break their barriers. So as we're talking about marathon themes, it is with great honor that I introduce Dr. Edward Mungai, who is a marathon runner. He's probably run in more marathons than anyone I know personally. Dr. Mungai is the CEO of Kenya Climate Innovation Center. Without any further ado, Dr. Mungai, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nuru, for the introduction. And you know, as we've been taught by our Nigerian brothers, I will start by saying that I'm standing, you know, on the existing protocol. Before I start my conversation, I want to highlight 3 points. 3 points which I think are very important and, you know, gives us the background of this conversation. Point number 1, and I think it's also alludes to what, you know, Dr. Hadbel was talking there about $2.3 trillion required for us to be able to achieve the SDGs. Now, let's put that into the perspective of Kenya. It is indeed 60 billion US dollars that is required between 2021 and 2030 if we are going, you know, to address what the government of Kenya have committed to, the NDC of 30% less emissions by 2030. So indeed, it's a significant amount, $60 billion. The second point that I also want to talk related to that, you know, is that private sector. Unfortunately, when I'm talking about private sector here, I'm talking about the financial organization, the financial institutions. You are expected, you know, to take bulk of those amounts. So, and in this case, then there must be mechanisms that will enable you to uptake those $60 billion. Remember, it is not philanthropy. This is good. And at the end of the day, your shareholders will be looking at the returns that you're generating. The third point, and I think this is the most important point because the 2 other points, you know, 60 billion, that financial private sector is expected, I think those are given. The third point is that financing will no longer be vanilla finance. We have been providing traditional kind of financing. The call to action now, we must look beyond the traditional financing. And we go, you know, from plain vanilla to more innovative sort of financing. And I think this is the debate, this is the conversation today. How is it that we can actually be able to move away, you know, from the financing of the last 2 years, the financing of the last 5 years, and we go to the financing of the future? I think it is Nuru who was, you know, saying about sustainable finance. Indeed, we say finance and sustainable finance. In future, it will all be sustainable finance. And if we cannot, within our financial institutions, be able to articulate what is that sustainable finance is within our institution, unfortunately, then we will not be in business and we will not say it is good business. And blended finance provides us with a great opportunity. It is with great honor that I'm speaking to you, obviously courtesy of FSD Kenya, together with our collaboration KCIC and Kenya Bankers, you know, to tell you some of the experiences and also to showcase that it can actually be done. And I hope once we listen, you know, to the 4 enterprises that we'll be seeing today, we will clearly be able to see that it is possible. But before we even listen to them, I think it is important, you know, to lay some important pillars as far as this is concerned. We know obviously that banks must be able to have a risk and return balance. And I think this is, you know, the kind of thing that we've been stuck to so much that we want to go for the obvious things, which is what I'm calling plain vanilla as we go about financing. But this morning we are saying, well, it can be done differently. And for it to be done differently, the first thing that we need to understand is there is something called financing value chain of an enterprise. And until we can be able to understand that and get into the nitty-gritties of it, we will not be able to play in that role of blended finance. And what am I talking about here? You know, when we talk about the value chain of financing, say, for instance, for a startup, you know that there will be required money for them to test their ideas. This is the risky part. This is where you can fail 100%, but the good news is that you can also write a story and nobody probably will repeat it again. But the key point as far as proof of concept is concerned is to give access to financing, not necessarily commercial financing. And then blended finance comes in, where we go to donors and other people who can be able to provide financing to be able to plug in that gap of wanting people who say, I think a certain concept can work, but they haven't tested it. They haven't piloted it. But we go into them, we give them $50,000 as an example. They roll their sleeves, they try to do it, and if it succeeds, then we move them to the next phase of the financing value chain, which is what we call early stage financing. And early stage financing does not necessarily need to be commercial bank financing. It could be, you know, what I call concessionary financing. And again, we do have many institutions, many donors. For instance, in our case, the European Union have been very supportive. The Danish government have been very supportive, you know, to plug this gap, where we go in and give softer loans or concessionary loans, say at even 8%, again, to encourage these people because we can see a solution. We can see them scaling up. But unfortunately, the risk-return equation at that point is not optimal. And therefore, we go in and through that phase we call early stage financing, we provide our $100,000 and hopefully they will be able to pay. And then they can be able to move to the next step, which is stage 3. And within stage 3 is what then you'd call seed funding. You know, and again, there are funds. There are also commercial banks who are bold enough, you know, to see the opportunities and pinpoint it. And this is the journey that we are in, where we are trying to see, can we be able to have more on the table who can be able to understand that indeed these are businesses which are just about to scale. And hopefully the scaling of them will bring a lot about returns within our banking system. And that seed funding, for instance, on our side again, fortunately, World Bank, Danida, EU have given us financing where we have what you call Kenya Climate Ventures, which then we can be able to plug in and give them up to a maximum of $750,000. And again, I say this is commercial money now. And where now we are nurturing them and we want banks to come with us. We want banks to, we syndicate together with the banks. Also these transactions and the 5 or 4 that we'll be presenting, you know, they're already on that space. And they can be able, you know, now to go for commercial financing. And we, once we do that, we will all be happy. I must quickly say that technical assistance, you know, these people, not necessarily they are business people, but they have brilliant ideas, ideas which can make transformation. And transformation in the sense of jobs, transformation in terms of, you know, dealing with the environment, transformation in terms of livelihoods, and more importantly, put returns on the table. And for us to nurture them, we must be able to take them through that value chain, and therefore we can be able to succeed. And blended finance, you know, today we are talking about blended finance, and it plugs in all these elements together. And if indeed we can be able to do it in the right way, with the support of FSD Africa, working together with Kenya Bankers and the members, then for sure we can be able to be the one who are making the difference in this country, because we do need this 60 billion. And this 60 billion will not come through plain vanilla investment, plain vanilla banking. It will come through innovative financing. And here we do have an opportunity to prove some cases, and hopefully more and more commercial banks will then uptake it and move it to the next level. Well, as KCIC, we are very keen, also to assist and to help banks to be able to plug into this gap, where then they can be able to structure in blended finance within their institution, and hopefully we all can make a difference. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Mungai, for that very impassioned introduction and very high-level overview of blended finance and the approach. Of course, we're very excited. I would like to now share a quick presentation. Dr. Mungai, you'll say yes if you can see my slides.
Yes, I can see. Put it on full screen mode. Thank you.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go through a quick presentation, and then I'll hand over to Mr. Ouma, who will also give you a quick presentation. And really, for me, I just want to set the scene from a banking perspective. Mr. Ouma will also share his insight. Really, he is the environmental expert, and I'm coming from a financial sector policy perspective. And really just to help you see that what we're appreciating as a banking industry, there's increased optimism. Of course, we know we are, and it's quite interesting. I think, has anyone mentioned COVID yet in this past 25 minutes of this meeting? I don't think we've spoken on COVID, which just kind of shows you how resilient we are. We have really taken those punches and rolled with them. But ultimately, what we're finding is banks are having increased optimism. Of course, last year was a tough time for our clients. The banks work very closely with our clients, particularly those in trade, in agriculture and manufacturing, to restructure their commitments really in the face of the increased risk environment. Banks overall have restructured over 54% of the entire portfolio. We're talking about 16 billion, more than 1.6 trillion shillings that have been restructured. And to me, I wanted to start off with this because ultimately finance is about risk management. It's intermediation, yes, but it's also about risk management. And this is the environment that we're operating in. However, we're still seeing optimism and banks are still working with their clients. So when we look at the climate finance landscape, you can't help but appreciate the role that agriculture and manufacturing plays in our economy. I'm sure many of us have seen this slide. Again, it's just to reinforce how every single county in Kenya is underpinned by agri. So if you're in the business of finance, you must be in the business of agriculture and manufacturing, from either intermediation or helping our economies manage their risk. The orange, now depending on women are probably seeing this as burnt orange and men are probably seeing this as yellow, but the orange is really talking about agriculture. And you can see every single county from Baringo all the way to Wajir Plus, you're seeing that agriculture is underpinning economic growth. And this is based on the Kenya Bureau of Statistics county level GDP report. Now, what does that mean? That means that when you look at our economic structure as a country, we are definitely impacted by climate volatility. Of course, Dr. Mungai and Dr. Olaka have spoken to this. And obviously, we know that if a majority of our output is centered around a few economic centers like Mombasa, Machakos, Nakuru, Kiambu, Nairobi, now, what does that mean when we have flooding? What does that mean when we have drought? What does that mean when we have locusts? What does that mean when we have pandemics like we're experiencing right now? To ensure that our economy is sustainable, we need to pull up all the other counties. And really, that's why we feel that blended finance is that opportunity for us to look at how do we lower transaction costs? How do we spread that risk? So we can get more capital going to Garissa, we can get more capital going to other potential counties, including Kitui, Embu, Siaya, and the like. So when you think about the county vulnerabilities, flooding, drought, landslides account for 67% of the risks that these economies are facing. So we really want to see how do we, remember the Kipchoges, how do we support these Kipchoges in these counties to break their barriers? Well, climate finance is that one way. And there was a very good study that Kenya Bankers Association, together with Kenya Climate Innovation Center, supported the national government on. This was led by KEPSA, and the work was done by GNI Plus. Again, partnerships. All this work needs collaboration. So as much as the government of Kenya published the report, they had their 41 runners at the back as well. So what we found from the climate finance landscape report that was published by GNI, we found that 243 billion shillings, about 2.4 billion USD, flowed to climate change related investment. And that is just based on a survey that was undertaken. We took this survey last year, and this is financing flows in the year 2018. So these numbers are really just based on what we were able to capture, but of course it doesn't capture the full gamut. But it's still a very promising sign. But however, as much as it's a promising sign, we've heard the other two speakers say we're not there yet. We've only directed a third of the capital that we need. 2/3 still needs to be met. However, it's important to note that the story for me that came out from this climate finance study that was very exciting is that there is activity in the local market. It's not just sovereigns from around the world that are directing capital, impact capital to Kenya. We are seeing increased activity from banks and even from enterprises as well that are reinvesting their retained earnings into climate-aligned investments. So we know that banks have been involved in finance ever since our economy and even before our economy became a republic. But bank lending to investments that are aligned to climate has really increased. And as at 2018, 80% of the flows that went to climate finance from the private sector came from banks. And about 19% came from private sector non-banks. So what that tells us is there is activity. So how do we leverage this activity through blended finance approach, looking at the opportunities that the public finance, both sovereign, local, and international, can do to support? Another interesting insight from this climate finance report that came out was actually a majority of the climate aligned investment that's coming and flowing in the Kenya economy is all about, mostly about mitigation. There is a lot of work for us to do around adaptation. And to me, that's where resilience comes in. So we really want to see how do we increase the financial flows to the green economy areas. The climate finance report found a few sectors that are desperately needing investment focus. I think the energy sector has been the darling probably of DFIs because you get the scale and you get the impact and you get the photo opportunity, but really the impact comes when we support the small clients that, like the ones we're about to hear from, the clients that don't need $1 billion or $1 million investment. They need smaller investments. And that's where, remember we talked about the counties, that's where impact comes. So how do we become efficient to help those smaller businesses that are operating in the green economy? Well, the sectors that need support are water and sanitation and related blue economy areas, forestry, certainly transportation, which we obviously are seeing. We're now seeing electric cars in Kenya, charging stations coming up. And then, of course, health and sanitation, drought is still with us, locusts are still with us. So there are various sectors. But I'd like to point to Sidian Bank, and we'll be hearing from Sidian Bank during the panel discussion. They recently shared a fantastic news around one of the funds. It's called the WASH, W-A-S-H, the WASH Fund. And this fund, between, I think during the course of 2020, August to January this year, they were able to deploy 400 million shillings. I think that's considerable, $4 million towards specifically water and sanitation clients. And have a look at this slide. The number one area that really needs support that the climate finance report found was the water sector. So really kudos to banks like Sidian that are working with DFIs, working with community organizations to support those small green economy entrepreneurs. I do know that Sidian plans to scale up this investment to even 500 million shillings $5 million towards supporting these water economy, blue economy clients. Kenya Bankers Association, together with many partners, including Financial Sector Deepening Africa, IFC, WWF, and several other partners, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, undertook several activities around the Green Bond Program. One of the hallmarks of the Green Bond Program was this demand study that I'm sharing with you on the slide. And we found, again, transportation, agriculture, manufacturing, there is huge demand for capital in these sectors. And of course, you can read up on this. So really, what are we talking about? I don't want to spend too much more time, but really the whole idea is, how do we get more private capital flowing to enterprises? Of course, we know there is a competition. There's that tension between really supporting the government agenda and really supporting private sector growth. The rate cap period, the interest rate cap period, even though it seems like it just never happened, that period between 2016 and 2019, you can see depressed private capital flow. And really what we're trying to see is, how can we reverse that? We are coming from an all-time high of 25.4% that was being directed to private sector. Right now, we are at 9.7. Can you imagine? We've gone from an all-time high of 25.4% going to private sector investment, coming down to 9%. So how do we get back to the glory days of 2014, where private sector capital was really flowing through the economy? And probably blended finance, in our hypotheses, is one of those ways that we can address this issue of risk. And of course, we know the reason why banks and other investment organizations are directing capital to the government, because of the risk-free rate is just too attractive to walk away from. So therefore, if investing in government helps you manage your risk, how do we attract you to the other side, which is investing in private sector? And again, we are trying to see how blended finance can help address this issue. Kenya Bankers Association undertook a study to really understand how the banks are performing after we launched the Sustainable Finance Principles, after we trained clients. And what we found was very exciting news. 81% of the banks said that their management is really now actively looking at climate-related issues. 54% of them are saying that all the way up to the board level, we're starting to look at this climate issue from a strategic perspective. And as Dr. Mungai said, it's not CSR. So we've talked about blended finance. Banks are working with many DFIs. I mentioned CDN as just one of the many banks that are working with DFIs to really try to lower their transaction costs, manage their risk, and really accelerate their lending. We know that there are more than 20 DFIs operating in the East African community, more than 135 impact investors. So the pool is huge. How do we leverage that? How do we tap that? And of course, we know blended finance is the way. So really, to wrap up, 4 key takeaways that I'd like to share. 1, we have seen how policy plays a key role. We know about the risk-free rate. We know how attractive it is to lend to government versus private sector. So we really need to make sure that the policymakers create that enabling environment to support private sector capital growth. We know that English came on a boat. We know the crowding effect. The crowding effect has a significant influence and really deters us from lending to small enterprises like the ones we're about to hear. So how do we start making them a little bit more attractive? The second key takeaway is really we need to build capacity. We're all beginning to learn and relearn how finance should be more relevant to society, the economy, of course, and the environment. How do we try to build capacity within the banking sector and also within our clients? The third key takeaway is this project that we've been talking about and we'll hear more about during the session. There are opportunities to de-risk clients, particularly in agriculture and manufacturing and the water sector, key sectors that we are looking at. And this is through partnerships like the partnership KBA, FSD, and KCIC are undertaking. And of course, the opportunities for DFIs to support and help us track and manage. What doesn't get reported and tracked doesn't get managed. So how do we make sure that we get more flow towards adaptation and mitigation and address that gap between the two? And then obviously, how do we start practices like climate disclosures, which my colleague, Mr. Ouma, will be touching on? Really, that's a very high-level presentation. I'm happy to engage with you on the chat. And without any further ado, let me hand over to Mr. Ouma. Thank you.
Good morning. Let me show my video for a while just to help participant put face to the name. And let me try and share my presentation. Morning. Good morning once again, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and fellow soldiers, fellow green soldiers rather, in the Green-Brown War. Let me use that analogy and not the one for a marathon, because I'm not a marathoner. I like to see this as sort of a war where, unfortunately, the brown soldiers are currently beating us. My name is Oumulum. I work at FSD Kenya as a green finance specialist. And just to reiterate, as Noor has already alluded, that I think green is more prominent in my role as opposed to finance. But I'm fortunate to be working with colleagues, including my boss who's here, who are quite knowledgeable in finance. And so we are able to basically, collaborate on this important agenda. Again, it's my pleasure this morning to say a few things about our green finance work. It's going to be a very brief presentation, no more than 5 minutes. Just to say something about us as FSD Kenya, the Financial Sector Deepening Kenya, or FSD Kenya, is an independent trust established in 2005. It's dedicated to the achievement of an inclusive financial system that supports Kenya's long-term development goals. We work closely with government, the financial services industries, and that's why we are here together with KBA and other partners to develop financial solutions that address real-world challenges, particularly those facing low-income household enterprises and underserved groups such as women and youth. In terms of green finance, I would like to say that it's first a new, as a focus or key area, it's relatively new for us, having only begun the work in the last 2 or so years. But we've always interacted with the subject in other areas of work, particularly in the agricultural and energy sectors, where we've supported, for example, weather index insurance for farmers, and of course, the well-known M-Kopa product that has brought solar lighting to many rural households across Kenya. For this particular work, our focus is and will be the domestic financial sector, a sector that has been overlooked and yet we feel is quite critical in the green growth agenda. Of course, I do not want to belabor the point. I think speakers who've spoken ahead of me have well elaborated the importance of the financial sector. Insofar as the green agenda is concerned, we've seen the figures that Noor, for example, has helped presented on from the landscape of climate finance in Kenya. And so we think that this is a very important sector that is yet to be fully tapped into, and that's why we are here. And we are here to be able to stimulate the sector to do more in terms of what we're calling financing green and also greening finance. And when it comes to financing green, what we mean here is that we want to work with the sector to be able to mobilize mobilize additional significant, predictable, and sustainable public and private financial resources for clean, resilient, and inclusive growth. I think you've seen the figure that Dr. Edward Mungai talked about in terms of what's required for financing Kenya's NDC support, $60 or so billion, between now and 2030. So really working with the sector to be able to mobilize such kind of
sorry, Mr. Ouma. Mr. Ouma, I'm so sorry. We can't see your slides now. We had seen your slides before. We can't see them now.
Okay, could maybe Rosalind?
Sure thing.
Yeah, because we shared them. Maybe she
Okay.
could project them from my end.
Sure thing.
We can see them now.
Oh,
Yeah,
can
we
you?
can see them now. Yes.
Oh, so I see. So you can't see them as a presentation, but you can see them as, okay. All right. So that's what we talk in terms of financing green, basically mobilizing additional significant resources for implementing green projects. And here, examples of the work that we are doing, of course, working on the Green Climate Fund. And here we aim to work with 1 or 2 financial institutions or banks, to be specific, in helping them obtain GCF accreditation, and of course working with them the next and very important journey of developing bankable projects for financing. And I think for the private sector, many that are knowledgeable of Green Climate Fund would know of the private financing component that particularly provides financing that banks can use for blending with their own resources for own lending to green enterprises, for example. And so that's an area that we hope to work with 1 or 2 financial institutions in that regard. The other work that of course we are doing is this blended finance work with KBE and KCSE, and I think it's only important that I maybe don't say more at this stage, because obviously we've had some prelude to what it is that we're expecting to see, especially from the entrepreneur's perspective. In terms of greening finance, the aim here is that to have climate and environmental factors mainstreamed as a financial and strategic imperative in the financial sector. And the examples of the work that we'll be doing here include the TCFD work that Durad already alluded to. TCFD stands for the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. It's one among the many emerging reporting frameworks on climate and environment broadly. And just to say that TCFD is actually emerging globally as the default environmental stroke climate reporting framework of interest. And aim here is to work with both the financial sector players, the banks through the association, and also the regulators. And talking of regulators, I think CBK has shown quite some strong interest in helping support implementation, at least voluntary implementation of TCFD. So we'll aim here to work with the regulators and the players in its progressive adoption. And part of the work that we'll be doing, especially for this year, and we've already begun it really, is capacity building in the framework, where we've been able to work with the regulators and associations such as KBA. They were invited to a very important meeting where we presented on what TCFD means and what it could actually imply for the banking industry. And we really aim to scale out such kind of activities and then work with them on developing implementation guidelines, and hoping to move to voluntary reporting in the new year and beyond. So something else that we're also planning to do under greening finance is this work with banks on a tool or tools that can help them in undertaking sort of quick but meaningful assessment of the potential environmental impact of the project that they lend to before making those lending decisions. Essentially supporting the mainstreaming of environmental and social safeguards in the banking industry. And I think you've seen from the previous presentation that a lot of some of that work is already happening. So ours here really is just to build on it and to make sure that it becomes a norm rather than an exception. So that's what we're planning to do in the green finance work, and I hope that I've been able to whet your appetite insofar as what we're planning to do is concerned. We are inviting you certainly to partner with us in this journey, given that our core objective here really is to work with the private sector and banks, especially banks either individually or through KBA are their financial partner for us. I'm also inviting you to visit FSD Kenya's website, www.fsdkenya.org, and to reach out to us for more details in terms of what it is that we're planning to do in the green finance area. Thank you very much. I'm certainly looking forward to engaging further on this.
Wonderful. I feel like we're all speaking so fast. to manage time. But I think we're doing okay with time because now we're ready to hear from the Kipchoges. So really, without any further ado, allow me to introduce Mrs. Christine Mwangi with the Kenya Climate Innovation Center. Christine has just been our champion in really mobilizing clients for this blended finance project. And we're just tremendously impressed with the work that the KCIC team has done to really help the banks get to know these clients. Without any further ado, Christine, please introduce the clients. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nuru, and good morning, everyone. I think one of the things, and I'll echo Nuru's comments, that it's been an exciting journey, and we have 4 presentations today, and this will be from Zain Agro Industries Limited, Kim Planter Seedlings and Nurseries Limited, Okulima Tech Limited, and Miyonga Fresh Greens Limited. I know that some of the names may not be familiar with us, but they will share some exciting stories about where they have come from and where they are going to. Now, what is the common underlying factor about all these enterprises? One, they have accessed green finance or blended finance from KCIC. And these are just 4 businesses out of a pilot that we are undertaking, implementing together with Kenya Bankers Association, of course, supported by FSD Kenya. We have 10 enterprises working with us on that program, and it was actually a very difficult task for us to select the 4 to come and showcase during this session. And I would not do them any justice even trying to highlight and mention what it is that they do, because they are better placed to do
Christine,
that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but please turn on your camera so we can see you, honey.
My camera is on, Nuru.
Oh, okay, maybe it's me, I can't see. All right, just go on, sorry.
Okay, okay, I think I'll log off and log back in later. Okay, all right, so I hope we've got Taher getting ready. Please put up your screen so that we can take it away. Zain Agro Industries Limited. Taher, thank you very much. Over to you, Taher.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope my slide is visible because I can't seem to see it. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Yes, it is.
Okay, because I don't seem to have control from my end. Perhaps if somebody could just roll through as I speak through it.
Okay, Taher, if you can hear me, I will share the slides for you.
Okay.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, that's fine. That's good. Okay, thank you. My apologies, I'm not so conversant with Microsoft Teams, but good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Taher Zaveri, and I'm the Managing Director of Zain Agro. We are involved in the cotton value chain, and our mission is to empower local communities to prosper and live harmoniously through our value chain. If I could please have the next slide. So at a glance at what our business does, our core business is cotton farming, processing, and oil milling. Our plant is based in Kitui town and comprises of a cotton ginnery, an oil mill, and a biodiesel plant. We employ currently 75 people and work with 7,000 small-scale farmers who we contract to grow the cotton for us. We produce cotton fiber, seed, oil, and cake, which goes towards animal feed, and finally biodiesel. We've been processing biodiesel at our factory to reduce our energy costs. Currently, our factory and our full fleet of trucks run on that biofuel, so we are fully sustainable. We don't use any outside energy. Other than that, we have also got 105 biodiesel water pumps, which are going to create mini irrigation grids for our farmers. And this is helping to mitigate climate change, and is currently benefiting 1,000 farmers in Kitui County. Other than that, we also supply biodiesel to the United Nations in Nairobi and several other eco-lodges. So this is what our business model looks like. We contract farm cotton with the farmers in Kitui, Meru, Lamu, and areas of Western Kenya. The cotton comes to our factory, we convert it into various products, the main one being the fiber, which is sold to the spinning mills who go on to convert it into yarn and then textile. Currently, our big buyers for the fiber are Rivertex, Thika Cloth Mills, and Sunflag. Other than that, for the animal feed, we have 3 other big buyers as well, which are Sigma Feeds, Gold Star, and Pembe. As I mentioned earlier, the biodiesel we're supplying to the United Nations here in Nairobi, and we're also doing soap, but we supply that to the farmers on the community level. What our impact has been to date, in the employment side, we have 75 direct jobs at the factory, 7,000 farmers contracted. Other than that, we also helped to create 5,500 more indirect jobs across the value chain by being able to filter and send in a valuable raw material for the upper value chain to use. Through our initiatives of trying to increase the yields, we have been able to increase the farmer incomes by 100% and lower the production costs. On the environment side, currently through the use of 150,000 liters of biodiesel, which we make available to our factory as well as the farms, there's been a saving of 1 million kilos of carbon dioxide emissions per annum. And also it's a safer and a much more cleaner fuel to use, so it's more healthier for the people who are using it. On the community side, we are able to provide a cheaper fuel, which is not only going to power these water pumps to grow cotton, but also for food growing crops as well. So it provides incomes as well at that level, and it also creates food security in a region which is pretty, food insecure. Other than that, we're also creating the other essential products like animal feed and soap, which we are filtering into the same value chain, which is overall creating to more employment and less of the other social ills like crime and unemployment. I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So we have been working with KCIC since 2016. We received a bit of assistance to bring in a new hybrid cotton seed variety, which we took as a trial to see if we can improve the cotton yields. I'm happy to know that it worked very well, and currently we're seeing how to roll that out further. Other than that, we also were able to strengthen our company management skills and be investment ready. And as well through KCIC, we've been able to network better. We've been able to voice out what we're doing. So currently our finance needs are to expand our hybrid seed farming program. We intend to expand it to another 1,000 acres, as well as secondly, to put CapEx into more value addition machinery. And finally, we're looking to bring IT into a business model so that we can monitor and get more information coming in from the farms. All this is over a period of 3 years. Once we complete this, our additional impact will be 30 more direct jobs at the factory, 1,500 more farmers contracted, and we intend to have a saving of 3 million kilos of carbon dioxide emissions per annum. So as you can see, we have a pretty sustainable model. We're generating revenues, we are profitable, and more importantly, we're sustainable as well. We can have next slide. So thank you for your time. These are my contacts. If you may have any further questions, please free to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Taher. As we get Caroline from Kimplant putting together her slide to share with us, I think this is evidence that what we have here is business. It is not about handouts, and you can see that the global initiatives that Dr. Uleka spoke to that are already taking place, that small steps have already begun. And Dr. Mungai's comments about business have been validated. Okay, next we have Caroline from Kimplant Seedlings and Nurseries. Over to you, Caroline.
Good morning, all protocols observed. First, I would like some clarity. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Caroline, we can see your screen. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Caroline Mugue Mwangi. I'm the founder and CEO of Kimplant Seedlings, and I will go right into my presentation. So we are Kimplanter Seedlings and Nurseries. And who are we? We are a certified seedling propagator using the trace technology to grow quality seedlings for vegetables, herbs, fruits, and trees. The background, I started this company as a hobby with one greenhouse at the age of 22. It's noteworthy to say I'm still a youth in agriculture. Now it's a professional propagation company with 15 greenhouses and holding a capacity of 1.3 million seedlings every month. We registered the company in 2018 and we have grown organically over the years. Currently, we have 3 branches across Kenya. We have 1 branch in Makoyo, Murang'a, the 2nd branch in Ruiru, Kiambu, and the 3rd branch in Rombo, Kajiado County. So I know some of you are asking why seedlings business, but 12 million, this is the population practicing farming as an income generating activity in Kenya. This is according to FAO Research 2018. As we all know the statistics, agriculture contributes a lot to our GDP and also employs more than 40% of the total population directly and indirectly. But the people who are practicing agriculture are facing a lot of problems, these farmers. And we researched and came up with the following problems affecting the farmers with specific focus on our specialty, that is propagation. Number 1 is limited access to seeds and knowledge on how to choose the best between hybrids and non-hybrids. They're also experiencing poor germination rates on these seeds. And eventually, once they plant, they get very weak seedlings. They also lack proper crop management and also low and inconsistent prices in the market once they make it there. Then, and the last and the most discouraging is the primitive perspective on agriculture as an income earner. So why do we think Kimplanter can be the solution? Because we are providing farmers with convenient access to quality seedlings, farm inputs, free agronomic support, and market linkage for their farm produce. Our goal is to impact every household with every interaction we make with a farmer. The below photos shows the technology we are using to grow our seedlings, the tray technology, and the resulting seedlings. We also have purpose over profit solutions, whereby we are running social initiatives to make farming attractive to the future generations. We are also educating farmers on proper biological crop management that is environmental friendly. The question is, how safe is your food? And the other solution, we have the Kimplanter afforestation agenda. We have come up with a tree nursery department, and the focus is we are giving up to 5 seedlings, free seedlings to individuals to plant in their farm. This is mainly focused on climate change. Our money stream with this department is the organizations that are doing their CSR, such as the banks and other organizations. Our market, we already have existing and target customers. We have ready market for small, medium, and large-scale farmers who are growing horticultural crops and fruits. Our persona is middle-aged, growing food for own and commercial use. He's very predictable in purchasing behavior and very trusting of a brand that delivers. Our market size is 12 million farmers. We have currently serviced 100,000 farmers. The opportunity is total accessible market of Kenya shilling 60 million monthly. The major agricultural hubs that we are focusing on is Central Region, Mount Kenya region, and Rift Valley region. We have already taken advantage of 2 of those regions by having branches there. Our revenue stream, we generate income by sale of seedlings, farm inputs on cost plus methods. The financing received so far, we have received a result-based financing from KCIC to buy a seed planting machine. This support has increased our production from 110 trays per day to 900 trays per day, increased our outreach to an average of 300,000 farmers from 100,000 farmers annually. We have increased our workforce from the current 18 staff consisting of youth and women it has also had an indirect impact in creating job opportunities that can only be imagined. This is through the jobs created through the value chain from production to the markets. We have also received a lot of support from KCAC in terms of technical support and also corporate governance and also partnerships that are pushing our business forward. The competitive landscape looks like this. There are 3 others. Then there's us, Kimplanter. We have 50-kilometer proximity to our customers. Those are the farmers in all our branches. We have high quality products and services. We are consistent in supply and prices. We are fairly priced. We are traceable. We have free agronomic support, and we are, of course, environmental and socially friendly, and we are certified. The milestones we have had so far, we have been able to reach out to 100,000 farmers. We have employed permanently 18 staff, youth and women, and many others as casuals. We have 3 branches in Kenya. In 2019, we got the Presidential Award for Best Youth in Agriculture, Kenya. We have also enjoyed some media coverage that has really pushed our market further. We have social impact. We are running an initiative dubbed Tunalima Young Initiative. This basically supports young children in school so that they can change their negative mindset on agriculture as an income earner or as an employer. What is happening next for us? We are expanding in capacity and client reach. And to achieve this, here is our financing need and plan. The short-term plan is to acquire the land just next to our head office in Ruiru Kimbo, Kiambu County, to accommodate our farm input stores or rather warehouse, and to create more space for our forestation agenda, the trees nurseries. This is the goal. We want to transition this country from here to here. The long-term plan, we are opening a modern automated propagation unit in our new branch in Kajiado to serve the farmers in the larger agricultural hub. Kindly note, we have made a few steps towards this dream by buying a 14-acre piece of land. However, we need a long-term financing plan to kickstart its establishment, and this is the vision. Fully automated, huge propagation unit. This is the team that is carrying this vision. It all consists of young people below the age of 32. These are our contacts. Thank you so much for your time. You can reach out to us for more questions or support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And following a lead on your last statement, I will direct you to the chat room where we have a comment from a guest, Joseph, who would like to invite you to Kwale so that you can set up there, and he's offering land. So you can touch base with Joseph on the chat room and see how to progress that. This is as we get Ukulima Tech Limited, Sheila Suluve, to set up her screen. Are you able to see me now?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
I can see.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mungai. So it is also interesting listening to Caroline and the work they are doing with the youth. It's a youth business, and we can see what sustainable finance can do. Sustainable finance results in sustainable job opportunities. So Ukulima Tech, Sheila, please put up your screen, or would you like me to put it up for you?
Christine, let me just try and see if I can share my screen.
Great. Okay.
Are you able to see it?
No. Yes, we can see your screen, Sheila. Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Sheila Suluve. I work with Ukulima Tech. And Ukulima Tech is a social enterprise that promotes urban access to fresh produce supply, and we leverage the vegetable and fresh produce supply. We leverage the technology of vertical farming to be able to provide affordable and healthy food to urban consumers. And basically, we try to encourage urban residents to be protagonists in their own food production. They're able to trace where their food is coming from. So the challenge in the Kenyan vegetable production market is that there's a lot of fragmentation in the supply chain of vegetables, and there's a very inefficient and informal network of intermediaries. So you'll find that from the time the produce gets from the farmer to the end consumer, there's a lot of wastage in between. And then this causes a lot of food inflation, which trickles down to the customer, who has to chuck more money from their pocket to be able to afford vegetables. And sometimes these vegetables are not in the healthiest state when they're purchasing them. So what is our solution? We came up with a localized agri-food system that can transform idle, underutilized, and alternative urban spaces into thriving food producing landscape. And we do this through vertical farm systems. And vertical farm systems are multi-layer levels of food production using pipes. In our case, we do use recycled pipes, so we are able to reduce wastage of pipes in the landfill, and we use that to grow food. We also compost food waste that goes into the growth of the vegetables. So we compost food waste, we recycle food waste to grow more food. So our business model is in 3 stages. First, we have the B2B supply chain agri model, where we connect distribution to Kenya's retail outlets, including supermarkets and grocery stores. Then we do have the B2C food supply chain, where through our website, we are able to sell vegetables that are vertically farmed and pesticide free to direct households. Customers can also find us through our website, where we sell directly from our website to packaged vegetables. Then we design and install vertical farm systems. This is in individual households. We do this in schools, institutions, in orphanages, basically where there is a huge population that requires large amounts of food. So what has been our impact? When it comes to climate change, vertical farms are perfectly designed to suit urban farming because of the limited land. And we also require very minimal input of water and growing medium. Like I say, the growing medium we recycle, so we are not using a lot of soil. We're able to give soil time to regenerate for the next planting season. Then we promote eco-friendly practices using organic pesticides. So we try as much as possible to do organic farming, where we do not use chemical pesticides that also cause harm to the environment and cause a lot of air pollution. Then we recycle plastic bags and also plastic tubes to ensure that no plastics go to the landfill. Then our impact on the community is that we have installed vertical farm systems where communities have been able to grow various types of vegetables and herbs, more than 50 different vegetables and herbs. And this system that has been adopted by local communities and households has enabled them to increase their food capacity in their households and in their communities. We've also been able to provide employment to youth who are able to adopt this technology, and also people in the slum areas who are in Kibra, and we are also in South Sudan, a rural community where we're able to do capacity building and set up vertical farm systems to be able to increase their production of nutrient intake of their diet. Then we have also been to Ghana, where we set up vertical farm systems in schools for the Feed the Child school program. And through partnership with the Danish Refugee Council, we're able to set up vertical farm systems and do capacity building at the Danish Refugee Council, at the Dadaab Refugee Camp, in partnership with the DRC. So because these are also marginalized communities where affordability of healthy food is quite a challenge. So through vertical farm systems, they're able to grow their own food, and they can even sell the surplus and increase their incomes. So previously, we have gotten funding from KCIC, and this enabled us to set up a commercial vertical garden center where we were able to produce up to 2,000 kilograms of fresh produce, which we supply to vendors, especially in Embakasi, because we are based in Donholm, so we're able to supply to vendors in Embakasi. The financing also gave us the ability to expand our operations and set up more than 2,500 vertical gardens across urban households in Kenya. Then we were also able to invest in the use of solar-powered modules for garden automation. This is in line with our climate smart agriculture, where we don't have to use electricity. We can tap into the power of solar energy. So our current funding needs include expansion of our operations to increase food security in urban centers, because we see that the need is always increasing, and we also see an opportunity in online shopping. 79% are shopping. 79% of Kenyan consumers are shopping more online since the global pandemic, and we're able to see an opportunity here. So through our commercial vertical garden center, we're able to harvest, package our fresh vegetables, and then supply to households and consumers. Then our plans also include to build a solid distribution network that can produce fresh produce and supply to more than 1,000 vendors. Then we also plan to invest in technology to increase production, to increase our production facility. And technology here comes in the form of creating a bigger warehouse, and using automation, we are able to track what is our water usage capacity, what nutrient capacity are we producing from the vegetables in our vertical farm systems as compared to the ones sold in the market. And through this, we are able to reach even more people and try to convert more people into eating healthy. And our overall goal is to make people protagonists in their own healthier and fresher food production. Thank you so much for listening to me. I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Sheila. As we get Yvonne from Miyonga Greens to put up her presentation, and if you've been wondering how to green your small space with edible plants, I think Sheila has just given us a solution. If you've got that small balcony space that you would want to green and possibly start distributing vegetables to your neighbors, Ukulima Tech are the people to speak with. Miyonga Fresh, Yvonne. And looking at the chat room, we have comments that came through from Paul, who's saying we need more people like Kim Planter because the world population is growing, and of course it needs to be fed. And I think that also flows into what we have just seen from Ukulima Tech, innovative ways of greening up the gardens and small spaces. Miyonga Fresh, we are ready for you.
Thank you, Christine. I'm trying to share my screen, but you could also share the presentation.
Would you like me to do that for you?
Yes, please. That would be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up shortly.
Thank you. As Christine shares the presentation, let me just start by saying it's a great honor for Miyonga to be given this opportunity to share. As Nuru was talking about the marathon and talking about Eliud Kipchoge, I kept thinking that for us, KCIC has been to Miyonga what Nike was to Eliud. We really couldn't have made it this far without them, because as a company, and I'll go straight to my presentation, we began just strictly as farmers who are working in growing just French beans, and now we are a company that's exporting to Europe. So it took a lot of faith for KCIC to actually invest in us. When we first began, we were working with just fresh fruits and vegetables, and now we're working with dried fruits, and this has a market both locally and for export. Next slide, please. when we first joined, started farming, one of the things that we wanted to do, next slide, please, Christine.
Okay, just
Yeah. One of the things we wanted to do is to help improve the livelihoods of women who are in farming, but we realized that about 40% of everything that grows in farms goes to waste. And when we talk about waste, food waste, it results into three things. Number one, there's the waste of the natural resources that were used to grow the crop. Secondly, there's the waste of the opportunities that the farmers would have to earn an income. And we're talking about opportunities, and when you think about the farming scenario in Kenya, it's that 80% of them are women, and they do reinvest their incomes back into the lives of their families. Next slide, I'm on slide 3 now, Christine. Income of their families. So what then happens is, if you help to reduce waste, you're helping to secure the future, you're helping secure the future generation. So as we talked about, this slide just highlights what I've mentioned. And so what happens in Kenya, next slide, we do have a very good climate, and we do have farmers who are growing crops. However, a lot of 40% of that goes to waste. And what you realize is the perfect fruit and the ugly fruit still has the same nutritional value. You can dry it or turn it into powder, and this has a big market both locally and for export. And this is what Mionga is doing. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we began as farmers, and now we are actually a company with a registered brand in Europe. And I'll emphasize again what Edward talked about. It didn't happen overnight. We did have strategic partners like KCIC who held our hands just when all we had was an idea, all we had was a business, and we had a market, but we needed to move from just being farmers to being farmers in business. And now through the last 4 years, we have been incubated at KCC, and we received a lot of technical support, right from business strategy, right to market, and as well as some grant financing in a pilot project that no one else believed in except KCC. And just by being part of them, the amount of leverage we have received has led us to grow into a company that used to have just $10 in terms of seed funding, into a company that has revenues of up to USD 400,000 just from exports. And you'll see more of what we're actually doing. As we mentioned, the challenges, our challenges also come as a blessing in the country where we have seasonality of fruits. What then happens is that factories either have to travel long distances to get the fruits, which means they have higher logistical costs, or the fruits are left at the farm and they go to waste. It leads to uncompetitive pricing. So the innovation, and this is a challenge that's faced across the country. So the innovation that Mionga Fresh Greens came up with was a mobile fruit factory that can be used to process fruits depending on the seasonality of fruits. What then that means is that only when you go to the farm and process the fruit when it's in season, it helps you do earlier production, decrease food waste, as well as increase the revenues of the farmers that would have gone to waste. So when you do fruit drying, the volume of drying to fresh is 10:1. So while our competitors are actually transporting like a truck, 10 trucks of fruit, we actually only have to transport one. We would only have to transport one truck. That means it's 10 times less volume. And that leads to, of course, a better competitiveness in terms of working with our customers. Next slide, Christine. And so what you're seeing is a prototype of the mobile fruit factory. Christine, please.
Yeah. Sorry, we seem to be stuck on this slide. Okay, there we are.
Okay. So is the mobile fruit factory. I'll just proceed, and then you can just continue. And what also happens is that in the end, it makes us 10 times more competitive than our partners. But what also matters to most investors is to make sure that you can actually enter the market, trace that this product is coming from this particular farm. This matters. The traceability aspect is very important in the European market. And in 5-10 years to come, it will be impossible for you to sell any product without being able to trace the source. So this helps us become fuel efficient, sustainable, as well as track the product right to the customers. So the current market, because at the end of the day, slide 8 now, the current market globally, if at the end of the day you have all these innovations, but you don't have a market for your product, then you're not really in business yet. It's not sustainable. So we've already done the research, and we do have the global market for dried fruit as of 2020 was what, about 265 USD. Just in the EU, it's about $75 million US, and in The UK, it's 54 million US dollars. And as for Myonga, that sounds good. But when you go to slide 9, it tells you exactly what it means for us as a company, where we have an immediate market. These are customers, not those that we are looking for, not those that we are hoping to get, those that are already in contact with us and telling us, Yvonne, we need about this volume of containers. Myonga is only able to do about 3 containers, and we need CapEx investments to be able to fit in the gap of the 9 containers that they actually also need. Now, when I talk about containers, it can actually just sound interesting, but slide 10 would actually give you what it actually means in terms of revenue. And these are specific prospects from different nationalities and the value of the containers in terms of what they need annually. One customer with about 1.67 million euros worth of dried fruits, and the rest are just the smaller customers that are not taking so much volume. How do we get these customers? You may ask. As you said, we began as farmers, and the one way we were able to support to get connected to the customer, slide 11, is number 1, through attending trade fairs, getting the required certification. We are forever grateful to KCSE. They supported us in getting our Global Gap certification. Once the customers learn that you have met the quality standards, then they give you the orders. So we strictly work on pre-orders, where it is where we manufacture only based on customers that have made orders to avoid having huge inventories. With the volumes that we are talking about right now, even with the mobile fruit factory, slide 12, it means that we have to move beyond just having the mobile fruit factory to having a bigger factory that we want to set up at an EPZA zone that would be a multi-fruit processing zone. That's on slide 12, Christine, if you're able to move there. A multi-fruit processing factory that would allow us to process both the mangoes, bananas, pineapples, jackfruit, because that's the current demand. So slide 13 talks about the level of investment that's actually required, because for us right now, we're still interested in having a franchise model, because we do know that there's several counties that still have more fruits that need to be processed. Then the central processing unit will be the unit where you bring in all the fruits that have been processed and package it and dispatch it to the different customers. Even with that, working with smallholder farmers, we will still need to invest in our own farms, because the bigger market, as you've seen on the table on slide 10, is for the organic certified fruits, where you're not using any chemicals. If you're using anything, it has to be natural, and that will need investment in a 200-acre farm. So I like that someone said, if you have, they have land in Kwale, we're looking for land in Kilifi, we're looking for land in, and we have already started to have discussions with them, Tana River, where we can actually set up a floppy irrigation system powered by solar and set up the factory there, which is closer to the farm, closer to the port for export, and then start to export and meet the volumes that our customers need. What does the investment actually need? Slide 13 just gives you a summary of the investment requirements and where the investment will be. It looks like you're only investing it may look like you're investing in a company, but slide 15 actually shows you're investing in more than the company. You're investing in the people and the lives of the families that will actually be working in the company. So that's a top level summary of where Myonga is at, the support that we've received from KCSE, and our next steps. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that fantastic presentation. So we've heard from our Kipchoges, if you will, about their businesses, their financing needs, but more so how they're creating value in the green economy. Now we'd like to shift gears from the demand side of finance to the supply side of finance, to hear from the banks that are part of the Blended Finance Project. Again, this is a project partnership between KCIC, FSD, and KBA. We're trying to see how we can bridge these companies like the 4 that we've heard from just now, that have been supported through grants and concessionary capital, and try to transfer them into the commercial space so they can really scale up and really be those global success stories. So this whole event is part of the Inua Biashara Summit. Today is the first event for the Inua Biashara Summit. If you can follow the hashtag, you will see the whole program. So we're very excited about that. So without any further ado, allow me to welcome back Christine to introduce the bank panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nuru. And on the bankers panel, we have representations from 4 banks whom we are working with on this pilot phase of the Blended Finance Initiative. We have a representative from Cedian Bank, a representative from KCB Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and Absa Bank. Please put up your cameras. Thank you, Nahashon. And we have Bernard, we have, thank you, Simon, we can see you. And Bernard, thank you, Bernard, we can see you. And Naomi, thank you very much. So we will be having a conversation around just to understand what the space looks like. And if we start off, kicking off with Naomi is the lead SME and agribusiness at the agribusiness function at KCB Bank. She has 20 years progressive experience in banking, sales, and marketing, and relationship management. And therefore, she's recognized as an expert in driving sustainable growth in the SME banking and agribusiness. So Naomi, over to you. Perhaps you could share with us a few initiatives of what KCB is doing as far as greening MSMEs is concerned. Over to you, Naomi.
Thank you, Christine, and good morning, everyone. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, great. So just to start us on this, I would like to point out that KCB Group has had a conscious drive towards a green agenda since 2008. And we have had a focus on supporting green financing investments in sustainable development projects and initiatives, and also environmental products and programs that encourage the development of a more sustainable economy. So as a financial institution, we are keen to support initiatives that minimize the negative impact to the environment, and especially those that counter the effects of climate change. So we have a raft of measures that we have adopted as a bank. We have integrated into our credit process a standard guide in the way we make decisions as far as environmental and social impact is concerned. So we have a social environment management system policy, which focuses on identifying and limiting the negative effects that projects have to the environment. And particularly as a bank, we adopted the we've adopted 9 sustainable development goals into our strategy, among them the SDG 13 on climate action. And so this leaves a little option for us as a bank not to support green projects. So we are here to affirm that we are in this, and we are really interested in supporting businesses that are involved in green projects as part of members of the signatory members of the UN Principles of Responsible Banking. So over and above that, we have set internal targets to grow our green portfolio assets by 15%, almost to targeting $200 million for that portfolio. And we are also focusing on boosting the capacity of our staff by offering trainings to understand green lending, to understand the risks and the de-risking avenues of green lending, all in support to growing that green portfolio. The bank has also partnered with institutions like IFC. We actually have partnered to the tune of $150 million to support SMEs and climate projects. We also have partnered with the Green Climate Fund to a tune of $250 million to also offer green facilities to people specifically in real estate development. The bank is committed to reduce the book carbon emissions as a way of ensuring that the green agenda is cascaded to our customers. And so the bank has signed a commitment to be a net zero emitter by the year 2050. So this means that apart from greening our operations, we will work hand in hand with customers to enable them adopt depollution technologies in their operations to reduce that book emission and also to have greener projects.
Okay, thank you very much, Naomi. And so following up on that, then this is a question that will go to Nahashon, and that's Nahashon is the Director, Credit Risk at CDN Bank, Credit Risk Management at CDN Bank, with over 20 years experience in this space. And therefore, we would just would like you to share with us what initiatives that CDN has been taking in this space, while also helping us understand what is this that, what criteria is this that you apply when you're looking or selecting green businesses for financing, and how is this different from the normal financing criteria? Over to you, Nahashon.
Thank you very much, and indeed great pleasure to participate in this forum today. Yes, CDN Bank, of course, because of who we are, formerly KREP and a microfinance institution. We then have a big participation in the microfinance sector and also the small and medium enterprises. And also because of then the policies and the standards that the bank and the board has set. First is that we subscribe to the industry's sustainable financing principles, and also because of our commitments to various financing partners, FMO, Africa Development Bank, and others. We then have a board-approved environmental and social risk management framework that we use for managing matters relating to ensuring that the financing that we give does not harm the environment and also the society. And so we also support our customers by enlightening and sensitizing them on the various aspects relating to these environmental and social risks within their businesses. From a bank point of view, of course, I think Nuru did indicate about some initiative that we are running last year and this year. It's codenamed WASH. WASH is just water, sanitation, and health. It's a program that we are financing borrowers in those three segments: water, sanitation, and hygiene, in the entire value chain. Whether you're looking at putting in some infrastructure, rehabilitation of water and hygiene systems, solar pumping systems, the essential assets that are required in the supply of water, storage of water, treatment of water, sanitary and hygiene kits, and those kind of solutions. And it's very interesting, just within a year, we've been able to support a total of 270 customers across 23 counties. In our estimation and discussions with our borrowers, this has had a positive impact, up to a tune of 2.3 million people across the network. And that's just one example. I think we also have other examples in supporting small hydro power projects, mainly working with the stakeholders who support KTDA. And we also have other players. We have a customer who is doing a similar project in Rwanda that we are working with. So as a bank, we have various initiatives and various products and offerings that we offer in support of our customers, whether it is solar financing and also looking at the low income and players in the microfinance sector. Now, going to your second bit of your question, which is a bit on the assessment of customers in terms of green financing. what we've done, and I'll just share, and I think that's probably common across various players in the industry. What we do as lenders is to embed the risk assessment and the process of assessing borrowers within the existing credit cycle and existing credit management framework. So what will then happen is that when the front staff are interacting with customers, they will then do the initial due diligence. They will look at the compliance from whether the customer, is in any excluded sectors that would directly be impacting the environment and the society, and they will then obtain certain documentation relating to the customer's, green requirements or green financing requirements. This then will be assessed as part of the normal credit cycle, where particularly relating to that borrower would be identified. Any mitigation or mitigating measures that would need to be put in place, and then engagement with the borrower in terms of any conditions and covenants that would be required for the customer to comply with in terms of the requirements for environmental, social, and governance requirements. And then this would be part of the contracting in the offer letter. And subsequently, then there will be the process of ensuring that these covenants and conditions are monitored for compliance as part of the normal credit cycle. So is this different? Yes, to the extent that if as a borrower, you approach a bank specifically looking for green financing, because of the commitments that banks do have to the suppliers of this capital, there will be very, very specific requirements that you have to meet. And there also be conditions and specific covenants and conditions that will be monitored by the bank. But this will not be taken through a unique sort of credit processing cycle. It will be part of the embedded credit cycle in the financial institution. Thank you. I think that those would be my comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Nahashon. And I just realized, I think I got carried away with the conversation that's happening today. I just realized we are a bit out of our time, but please bear with us because we still have some information that we believe would be relevant to those who are seeking to go green, or the other enterprises or institutions that would be looking to support green financing. And on the panel also, we have a representative from Standard Chartered Bank. And Bernard, perhaps you could help share some information or some insights on what benefits there would be if a business positioned themselves as a green business, especially when they are approaching the bank for financing. And perhaps before you go on, I'd like to mention that Bernard is also a seasoned banker who has 14 years experience in banking, especially in the corporate and commercial banking, and is currently the general manager business banking at Standard Chartered Bank. Welcome, Bernard.
Thank you, Christine. And before I respond to the question, I would like to share what Standard Chartered Bank is doing as pertains to green financing. So as the first speakers mentioned, based on the United Nations estimate, emerging markets face about $2.5 trillion worth of investment gap for them to be able to meet the SDGs that have been put in place. Standard Chartered has been an early leader in sustainable finance focused on emerging markets, and in 1997 we established an ESG risk team to help us in focusing on this noble cause. We have been measuring impact in our markets since 2010, publishing impact reports on our banking activities across the markets where we have presence. We are one of the first banks to sign the Equator Principles for project finance. And since 2019, we are now the chair of the Equator Principles. As part of supporting our clients' transition to low carbon future, we are increasing our target for financing and facilitating clean energy and renewables to $35 billion by 2025. So this is an ambitious target that we have put for ourselves, because it falls part of our strategy as a bank to be able to move the industries, the companies we're supporting, and the companies that we'll be supporting into the future to zero carbon emissions. We have mobilized more than 5 billion in blended financing to tackling social development problems such as food security in Africa, job creation in Africa and Asia, and low carbon energy in Middle East, working with donors such as World Bank and UK CDC, the partners that have been supporting us, ensuring then we are supporting sustainable financing in this market that we have presence. We were ranked the #1 bank for blended finance in Convergence Blended Finance in 2019 report. We launched also the world's first sustainable deposit product in the UK and Singapore. And why this is very important for us is, as much as, yes, we are getting support from other financial partners, but we have clients who have resources, who have cash that they want to be used into financing sustainable development without necessarily losing their cash. So they'll put in the bank the cash, then we'll use that cash to give support to sustainable industries. And these clients earn something out of that. So in summary, sustainable is part and core of our strategy, and we are committed to reducing carbon emissions in the markets we operate in by supporting our clients through financing and advisory. So clients not only require financing, they also require advisory, which is quite an important piece when it comes to sustainable financing, because just giving finance alone without then necessarily supporting these clients, it doesn't really help them to be able to achieve the objectives. So back to your question, where you asked the benefit that accrues to the SMEs who by they gain from SMEs by participating in this financing. So one is companies enjoy lower funding cost. Why lower funding cost? Lower funding cost because what the initiatives that are involved in, they are contributing to the sustainability of the environment. We are talking of sustainable agriculture. We are talking of clients who are using new methods of farming without necessarily tilling their land, and they're able to plant their crops. We are talking of clients who are using organic fertilizers into their production. We are talking of clients who have blended both the electricity and case of Kenya Power, and they're using solar energy. So they have blended those into their operations. So the benefit they enjoy for such clients is lower funding costs. Number two, outside banking is strengthened reputation. So, and you have listened to the 4 cases that have been presented to us, and I've been reading through the comments. The reputation that this company get by participating in sustainable activities or sustainable initiatives, it goes a long way in ensuring that these companies continue being in the forefront of growth. 3 happy employees. You can imagine working in a company that is contributing to the welfare of the society, that is using less water, that is using natural energy for its production. And I can give an example of the Ukulima Tech taking advantage of the products that are likely to be rejected in the market and converting them into good use. This as an employee working for such company, you feel proud working for such company. Number 4 is you're viewed positively by the regulators. Why positively by the regulators is, and remember the regulators in this case are many. In Kenya, we are talking of government having different regulators, examples of NEMA and the likes. And for any company that is participating in sustainable activities, then whenever the engagements take place, we always want to get associated by those companies. And regulators will always have a soft spot for those companies. Lastly is investor diversification. Why investor diversification? Most companies that are participating in sustainable financing, some already began operations in financing that is not necessarily sustainable. Now, what happens is with more investors coming into play, they can be able to decide which side of financing they want to participate in. Do they want to participate in providing solar energy for your company? Do they want to participate in ensuring that sustainable use of water in your company? Do they want to participate in for example, like affordable housing, what the government is doing for the economy, houses that are cheaper, that uses low-cost materials, that will be able to support the sustainability of the environment. Projects that are contributing to reduced greenhouse emissions. So that's some of the benefits that I'll mention here, Christine, that will accrue to SMEs that are participating in this green financing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard. And I would like to remind our audience that you can use the chat room to ask any questions specific to any banker or any general question you may have to the bankers as we progress. And for the interest of time, even if we are not able to cover your question on this forum, we will be able to get in touch with you with a response. And we also have on the panel a representative from Absa Bank, and this is Simon Kinuthia. And Simon Kinuthia is the head of agribusiness at Absa Bank Kenya PLC. And Simon, now that we have heard about what it is that SMEs need to do, the benefits of positioning themselves as green, so what is it that you think from your side as a banker, as a supplier of finance, that we need to do as stakeholders, and this also could speak to the policy, so as to catalyze green finance, and especially for the SMEs as we progress to try and bridge this gap of the huge numbers we've had from the other speakers on the forum. Over to you, Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. Just confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for having us on this session. It's been great listening to all the presenters. And just from what I've seen, I'm very encouraged as an agribusiness person that there's a lot of opportunity actually we can tap into through blended finance and collaboration. So just to maybe give you a sense of where Absa is in this journey, it's a journey we started some time back. And I could say in 2019, Absa Group Limited became one of the signatories of the Principles of Responsible Banking, committing to strategically align its business with Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Our ambition as a group is to become a leading purpose-oriented African business that is deeply rooted in the countries we serve, which recognizes that our sustainability is directly linked to the sustainability of the communities in which we operate. So that's a journey at the group level that we've started. Through Africanacity, we're looking at basically ensuring that we recognize, that we need to really drive or enable the communities that we operate in also operate sustainably. So Barclays, Absa Kenya, also launched its sustainability and gender report, and that basically went to enumerate the achievements from various initiatives such as green and circular economy, empowerment of women in business, small and medium enterprise development, part of which is what we're discussing today, sponsorships and COVID-19 response. So we're building a banking culture that is aligned to climate change, including our commitment also as a bank to plant 10 million trees in the next 5 years. So that's part of the journey that we're going on as a bank. And as it has been mentioned in this particular session, collaboration is the key to achieve this. So as Absa, we're looking at basically establishing partnerships and collaborating with entities focusing on technical assistance and capacity building on green finance and targeting the small and medium-sized enterprises space. So we've basically looked at, we can't go into this journey alone. We need to really collaborate, and we have actually done that with entities such as yourselves, KCIC, FSD, looking at various initiatives that we can work together on to really enable this environment. So just to give you a sense, we also started at home. We actually retrofitted our headquarters here on Wayaki Way to ensure efficient energy use. And basically that speaks to our belief as a business on greening the globe. So really appreciate this engagement. And what I'd like to say is that I think one of the areas that we can really look at is providing an enabling environment is basically around, for example, initiatives, tax incentives, and initiatives that can really go a long way to make it possible for businesses looking to actually, enter this space in a big way, be able to access this, technology and equipment. And as a bank, our role is really to provide enabling finance to really catalyze that and make it achievable for such businesses to be able to do that. I liked what Nuru said. I think she actually summarized, what needs to happen. That in tax initiatives will provide an enabling environment. In addition, capacity building, because a lot of this is actually requires both the financiers and also the business and entrepreneurs to really walk this journey together. And also opportunities to de-risk. I think that was the other aspect through collaboration. I think there's a mention of looking at blended finance to provide, for example, longer tenors for some of these, project investments, because you realize some of the facility options we have in the market currently are short-term and would require maybe a longer-term kind of accommodation, and that through collaboration and partnerships will be able to provide de-risking instruments that can help us achieve that objective. And then lastly is the opportunities for donors and DFIs to help in terms of tracking. And for me, this is really important because monitoring and evaluation provides a very important place to learn and to acquire knowledge and to see how we can be able to use that knowledge to help us improve and make us even better in terms of this space. So I really encourage the presenters today and also the businesses that are presented. I'm really encouraged from the cotton industry, looking at what you've done in that space to provide a really robust agro industry in that space. Looking at Kim Planter, who's really providing, the solution around seeds and inputs and just getting it right so that we can achieve the yields we need. I like the vertical farming business model for Ukulima Tech, and that really speaks to a lot of what we're seeing, which is urbanization and looking at it as a business concept. And really, I'm really encouraged that we can actually commercialize that and make it very, very profitable because it addresses food supply and also looks at various aspects of just making sure the youth is also engaged in this business side of things. And lastly, on the Mionga Foods, excellent proposition. I mean, 40% of food gets wasted at the farm, and that's really a big problem. I like the fact that we're solving problems here, and to that extent, I'm really encouraged by how you've commercialized the business. And we'll be looking to speak some more, as Dr. Mungai said, there are various stages that the business will be growing and using finance. Blended finance will be one stage, and looking at now expansion, a bank like Absa would come in very handy to now discuss how can we commercialize and expand that business now to the next level. So I'm really encouraged by that and really looking forward as Absa Bank to partner and collaborate as we go into this green agenda. Thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you very much, Simon. And once again, unfortunately, we may not be able to take questions from the audience to the panelists because of time. So please use the chat box. And for the panelists, maybe allow me to close the session. This was not the intention, but because of time, maybe over to you. Just a quick round on your last parting shot, and the rest of the questions we can have the conversation going on in the chat room. And I'll start off with you, Naomi.
Thank you, Christine. And really, what I would say is green financing is no longer the future. It is actually the current, it's the present. This is what we are going through now. And my encouragement to the business, the business people within this sector of green finance is you need to build your capacity all round to enable you to develop bankable and justifiable green products, which then will enable financial institutions release funds directed towards this tackling climate change. I would really want to reiterate the fact that KCB is very keen to increase our footprint in green lending, and we want to encourage business people to engage us. Feel free to engage us using any platform, be it the website, be it through the call center, or physically visiting our branches, so that we are able to understand your need and to try and come up with a solution to meet your particular green finance need. There is, like I said, a dedicated line of funds to support this initiative. And so I encourage you to take advantage of that funding and talk to us. We want to walk this journey with you. So feel free to engage with us, and we will be happy to work around and come up with solutions that will meet your need. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi, for emphasizing that KCB Bank, the doors are open for the green MSMEs. Nahashon, what's your message for us today?
Thank you. I think my message is simple. Is that funding is available. We specialize in offering innovative financing solutions. So if you're an investor down there, up there, you have a fantastic idea like the ones we've had an opportunity to listen to today. Talk to banks. Banks will be able to support you and work with you. It's very encouraging, and we need to continue with these initiatives through KBA and our partners who are participating today, and reach out to more to sensitize financial institutions and also our stakeholders on these initiatives so that we can continue to create awareness and also make everybody be aware that you can actually be able to get the kind of financing that you are looking for. Otherwise, thank you for the opportunity to be able to participate in this.
Thank you very much, Nahashon, for reminding us there is an opportunity to come to the table and have a personalized conversation as to what our needs are and see how best to provide a solution that would work for us and for our businesses, depending on where we are. Bernard, last message.
Okay, thanks, Christine. So what I'll say is, yes, I'm a banker, and our main objective is to support our clients, both financially and on other matters. And on sustainability is being a big subject. I'll also remind our clients and the listeners is not only do you require financing, you also require advisory. So we should not only fix ourselves to providing financing, and as banks and institutions, and specifically for Standard Chartered, having been in this for a long time, since 1997, we have a department that specifically supports sustainability, and we are ready to provide both the financing and the advisory that you require to be able to leap to the next level. Recently we have done a research, and most of the multinationals we bank as a bank have said they are going to provide financing to their suppliers. They are going to provide education to their suppliers. And for those companies, by 2050, those companies that will not have moved into sustainable activities, then they'll be removed from being suppliers to these multinationals. So you can see how important it is for not only institutions that you work with, but everyone globally want all the companies that are participating in their ecosystem to move into green projects. So our doors are open. Whether you require advice or require financing, reach out to us and we'll be able to support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for reminding us that sustainability today is not an option if we want to remain relevant into the future. Simon, our parting shot for the day.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christine. So what I'd like to say is that the future of the next generation will be influenced by the decisions we take today. And I'm encouraged by the commitment from all the participating, people on this call, that we're all committed towards the same objective. What I've seen is that supply chains are now becoming global, and we all need to make sure that we're playing the part to make this green agenda a success. I think we're in this together as ABSA. We're ready to listen and look for the best financing options. We partner with experts like yourselves to help capacity build and also help us as we go on this journey. Because as we've mentioned, it's not only the financing leg, but it's also the advisory that's very keen. And with that, we need to collaborate with like-minded institutions to be able to deliver the right structure and the right solutions. So we're very keen to walk this journey, and we're in this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, panelists. And before we welcome Victor Ndiege, and I'll share a bit about Victor and his role in this session, I would like to thank the representatives from Absa Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, KCB Bank, and Sidian Bank, who are currently working with us on this blended finance initiative pilot that is financed or supported by FSD Kenya. And we look to have some very positive results and learnings. Of course, as Dr. Mungai mentioned, whatever we have, we will document for learning so that we make sure that if we make any mistakes along the way, no one then will repeat those mistakes. So as we put up Victor's presentation, and Victor is the CEO of Kenya Climate Ventures, and his role when the enterprises that we saw today have not gotten there by chance. There has been some work put into it, and perhaps Victor will share with us what it is that it took to get those enterprises to where they are. So Victor, are you able to see the screen? Victor?
Hi, Christine.
Yes, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I'm able to see the screen. Please have it on a slideshow, and we go to slide 2, right? So thanks a lot, Christine, for giving me an opportunity to say what we have done with enterprises that presented before, and to say what we do with many more of them who did not have an opportunity to speak today. And also just to emphasize that it is important to look at this entire initiative as an ecosystem of players who are very important to help achieve the transition into green blended financing. As KCIC Group, in it, we have several service pillars. And what I will speak about today is access to finance and advisory services. As many players have mentioned before, that we are all working together to improve livelihoods. So our response to effects of climate change, our response with affordable, patient, and concessional financing is about improving the livelihoods of communities and customers where we work. And that is not just a social responsibility, but it is also the core of our business. Next slide. So over the last 5 years or so, KCIC Group has been involved in providing very patient, concessional, and longer tenure financing with a number of SMEs here in Kenya. Christine, the next slide, right there. So we have been looking at it from more of a value conveyance process. So as Edward mentioned earlier, we look at the proof of concept, we look at early stage financing, and we also provide growth stage financing, coupled with non-lending services in the areas of technology development. Previous slide, sorry. Yes, in the areas of technology development, product development, market access, certifications. You had one of the enterprises indicating that for them to really break the export market, we had to support them to receive a lot of certification required for the European market and other markets. And most importantly is on additional investment readiness. So as the representatives from the banks were speaking, I see a lot of opportunities in trying to partner to move on to the next stage, where it is very important to crowd in more capital and advisory support for these businesses to succeed. As KCIC Group, we mostly ensure that the SMEs have gained traction and are able to attract follow-on financing from more competitive sources. So as from proof of concept, and it's all building from grants into loans and then into convertible debt facilities and equity eventually, with increased period of financing, which is a longer tenure, like for example, early stage financing and growth stage financing. In the sectors of commercial forestry, we have been able to look at up to 7 years of financing. Looking at the entire spectrum, the whole idea is that KCIC Group is not in it alone. The whole idea is that we are working with several partners, next slide, and that these partners are able to perform different functions along the growth cycle of businesses. The representative from ABSA, Simon, spoke about this, and that it may not be very easy for the banks and all other high-value lenders to come in at an earlier stage when businesses are only absorbing very little as $50,000. But it is important that there are actors at that stage who then build the capacity of these businesses to be able to cross over the several valleys of debt. And in this case, it's important that as KCIC Group, in the partnership with FSD Kenya and the Bankers Association, we have positioned ourselves to be able to create better opportunities for all follow-on financiers. Just to share with you just a brief of what has happened in the last 5 years or so. Next slide. We have been able to, looking at our proof of concept financing, investing up to around $1.4 million over time, leveraging up to 46 million. And if you add the testimony of the 4 businesses that actually indicated they were able to grow from ideas into now businesses that are exploring the export market, it has come with a lot of leverage. And just to point out one thing that is important at this phase, that if you look at the proof of concept financing and the level of leverage and the kind of leverage that is there, it more requires grants and along with commercial capital. So could be loans and other soft and long tenure like convertible debt and equity. But just look at the percentage of how much grant and commercial capital is needed at that stage. And that is the reason we say it is not capital alone that can help make a difference. As the businesses grow, they need to have a capacity enhancement program that would enable them to continue absorbing and absorb more capital. Compare that to the early stage financing and growth stage financing, where the leverage from grant then reduces significantly as commercial capital grow. And this is where the intervention of banks like ABSA, KCB and CDIAN is really required, because then you help grow this capital, commercial capital portfolio, and then enable these businesses to actually expand, as most of them had indicated they want to expand into Kilifi, Kwale, and possibly other counties within Kenya, so that they can maximize on the impact. Now, just in a nutshell and summarizing that, there has been a lot of blending that has come from loans from local banks, loans from, international banks, some of which are working here in Kenya. And for me, what I see is that as an ecosystem of players, along with the KCIC group, we are able to achieve green blended financing to a larger scale much sooner than if we did it individually on our own. Back to you, Christine.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Victor, for your presentation. Thank you for that. And indeed, we've heard throughout the morning, and thank you everybody for hanging with us and staying with us. Indeed, we've heard throughout the morning the green economy opportunities, the blended finance opportunities. I think maybe we haven't talked about pricing. I saw on the chat one of the clients asking about pricing, and really with blended finance, what we've seen is you're able to lower the interest rate on the financing. Just to give an example, I do know KCIC on the funding that they do is about 6%. African Development Bank, through their blended finance projects, have been able to bring lending down to 2.5% on the dollar. So you can see by bringing in different sources of capital, you can actually lower the cost of the finance. So we really want to keep engaging on this conversation. We've been on here for very long, so thank you again for your patience. We would like to close, and we invite Mrs. Tamara Cook, CEO of FSD Kenya, to give us a final thought and to end the session. Thank you. Please unmute your line.
Hi, thank you, everybody. You probably heard me saying thank you for those of you who've held on. Great. So I would like to quote what we heard at the very beginning from Dr. Mungai. He said that in the future, all finance will be sustainable. And given the challenges that we face here in Kenya, especially, the future of finance must be sustainable. And while that can feel like a bit undaunting, it's important to think about the inspiring presentations that we've just heard. When you hear inspiring green entrepreneurs sharing such compelling businesses, I think it gives us hope that the future of finance can be sustainable. These businesses were not only good for Kenya, they're good for the earth, and more importantly, they're good for business. And that's important for all of you bankers who've held on until the very end. So on behalf of the Kenya Climate Innovation Center, Kenya Bankers Association, and Financial Sector Deepening Kenya, allow me to thank you all for participating in this important event. Let me also encourage you to continue to participate in the Inua Biashara Summit events that are happening the rest of the week. And continue, please continue with us on this journey towards a greener and more inclusive future. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.